Tonight, we venture into the black heart of Los Angeles in the mid-1980s. A city basking in the glamour of sunshine, celebrity, and fast living, but stalked in the shadows by a predator with no pattern, no mercy, and no fear. He came in the night, slipping through windows, bypassing locks, drawn to the vulnerable and the unsuspecting. He raped, he murdered, he tortured, and he made his victims swear allegiance to Satan. His name was Richard Ramirez. The press called him the Night Stalker. To his victims, he was the face of death itself. This is not just a story of crime. It's a story of trauma, terror, media obsession, and a justice system stretched to its limits. Join us now as we open the case file of one of the most feared serial killers in American history. Born Ricardo Leyva Muñoz Ramirez on February 29, 1960, in El Paso, Texas, Richard was the youngest of 5 children in a strict Catholic Mexican-American household. His father, Julian, was a former police officer in Mexico, who later worked for the Santa Fe Railroad. He was a volatile and violent man, who often lashed out physically at his children. Richard received the brunt of these beatings, forming the early blueprint for a life dominated by pain, detachment, and anger. As a child, Richard suffered multiple head injuries, once from a falling dresser and later from a swing, resulting in epileptic seizures. These incidents likely damaged his developing brain and were early warning signs of neurological dysfunction. But the most pivotal moment in Richard's young life came when he was just 12. His cousin Miguel Mike Ramirez, a Vietnam War veteran, returned home with stories and photographs of unspeakable violence. Raped and mutilated women, decapitated bodies, and gruesome battlefield atrocities. Mike showed these photos to young Richard like war trophies. And then Richard watched Mike shoot his own wife in the face during a domestic argument. Instead of seeking help, Richard grew silent. He didn't flinch. The trauma didn't crack him. It seemed to crystallize something inside him. The first known murder attributed to Richard Ramirez occurred on April 10, 1984, in San Francisco. His victim was 9-year-old Mei Leung, raped, stabbed, and hanged in a basement. The case would go unsolved for 25 years until DNA linked Ramirez to the child's death. But it was on June 28, 1984, in Los Angeles, that the terror truly began. Jenny Vin Cao, 79, was found dead in her apartment, stabbed repeatedly, nearly decapitated. Ramirez had crawled through an open window. From there, the pace quickened. Ramirez struck again and again. Dale Okazaki, Vincent and Maxine Zazera, Joyce Nelson, Peter and Barbara Pan. The list grew. His victims ranged in age from 9 to 83. There was no pattern: men, women, children, multiple ethnicities, all chosen at random. He used guns, knives, blunt objects, cords, hammers. He raped, tortured, mutilated. He left pentagrams, carved satanic symbols, and demanded his victims swear to Satan. In some cases, he spared the lives of children, even offering strange comfort. In others, he committed atrocities in front of them. He bit victims, stole souvenirs, and always left chaos behind. He was a hybrid killer, part organized, part disorganized, methodical in approach, frenzied in execution. Law enforcement was at first baffled. Ramirez's attacks spanned multiple jurisdictions across Los Angeles and San Francisco, with no clear pattern or victimology. Detectives Gil Carrillo and Frank Salerno of the LAPD were among the first to piece together the puzzle, seeing connections in the method, the satanic overtones, and the obvious sneaker print found at several crime scenes. The press dubbed him the Night Stalker, and public hysteria exploded. Gun sales skyrocketed. People barred their windows and patrolled their neighborhoods. Ramirez, meanwhile, kept moving, stealing cars, living off stolen goods, always one step ahead. But on August 24, 1985, in Mission Viejo, a couple named Bill Carnes and Inez Erickson were attacked. Inez survived and remembered critical details. Ramirez had rotten teeth, foul breath, and drove a Toyota station wagon. The car was later found, and inside it, a fingerprint. It matched Richard Ramirez, a drifter with a criminal record. On August 31, 1985, Ramirez returned to Los Angeles, unaware his face had been plastered across newspapers and TV screens. Locals recognized him. He was chased through the streets by civilians, cornered, and beaten by an angry mob until police arrived. Richard Ramirez was charged with 43 felonies, including 13 murders, 11 sexual assaults, and 14 burglaries. His trial began in 1989, after years of delays, security concerns, and bizarre legal antics. In the courtroom, Ramirez played to the cameras. He drew pentagrams on his palm, flashed devil horns, and smirked at victims' families. At his sentencing, he declared, "Big deal. Death always went with the territory. See you in Disneyland." He was found guilty on all counts and sentenced to death. Ramirez spent the next 23 years on death row at San Quentin State Prison. There, he received fan mail, got married to a journalist named Doreen Leoe, and continued to espouse satanic philosophy. He never showed remorse, never confessed to more crimes. He died of B-cell lymphoma on June 7, 2013, at age 53, never executed, never truly accountable for all he had done. Richard Ramirez became a symbol of evil in the modern era, a night-dwelling demon in human form. He's been the subject of books, The Night Stalker by Philip Carlo, TV and film, Netflix's Night Stalker American Horror Story, Born to Kill, music and pop culture, referenced by Slayer, Macabre, and others, true crime media, podcasts, YouTube documentaries, reenactments. But this fame came with a cost, glorification of a murderer. His looks, his mystique, his Satanism, all led to a cult-like following, especially among women. The victims' families have called this phenomenon sickening. The real story isn't Richard Ramirez. It's the lives he destroyed. Jenny Vin Cao, a loving mother, stabbed to death in her bed. Inez Erickson, who testified bravely against her attacker. The Zazaras, whose deaths were so brutal. Police still recall the horror. Forensic practices improved because of this case. Interjurisdictional cooperation grew. The justice system, slow and flawed as it was, held him accountable. But the trauma lingers in the families, in the city, in the culture. Richard Ramirez may be dead, but his shadow still haunts the dark alleys of our collective memory. He reminded us that evil doesn't always wear a mask. Sometimes, it smiles, charms, and waits until you sleep.